Okay, Econ 421. Back to new material. We're in chapter 10, dealing with worker mobility, migration. We always think of migration as across the borders into the US, but there's a lot of migration that takes place within the United States, and the analysis is pretty similar, as you will see. This is the most rare hat in my collection. I believe this is a team that was in the Northwest League, minor league baseball, Class A, the Ogden, Utah Raptors. And I knew someone was actually filming a video about the team and got me this. So I have a few more in my collection, but they're not going to get any more weird than that one. Okay, so what's the story here with regards to migration? Look, we know in any well-functioning economy, which is not where we are right now, resources have to be free to flow to higher valued uses. And things are no different when we're talking about labor markets. So workers need to be able to switch jobs at relatively low cost, move to other regions or move to other countries. And the threat of a move helps in part to put pressure on employers to pay market wages, because whenever you have more options in economics rather than fewer, that's a good thing. That's a no-brainer, but it's something we don't think about. What are the choices that people have? If we give them more choices, makes them better off. Okay. Now, the whole issue about migration is really a utility argument, because people seek to move for more than just economic gain. Okay. A lot of times immigrants who come from other countries, it's not for their benefit. It may not even be so much for their children's benefit, but more for their grandchildren's benefits, giving up good professions, good pay in their home country, coming to the United States for economic opportunity, to escape political repression, discrimination, whatever the circumstances might be. But it's a much longer term view than saying, okay, am I going to make more money coming to the US? If not, then I won't do it. Or moving to a new part of the country that may not be so good for you, but the schools may be better. It may be safer in terms of crime, may be cleaner in terms of the environment, or whatever. So I'm going to show you the simple algebraic relationship that kind of identifies all this. And then we'll be able to very quickly look at some factors and see how they're going to affect the likelihood that somebody's going to move. Statistics show about 3% of the world, live in a country other than the one they were born in. In a place like Saudi Arabia, 31% of the population consists of foreign nationals. They've imported a lot of foreign workers to help promote their economic development. In the United States, it's about 1 in 7 or so who live in the U.S. who were not born in the U.S. So it's pretty significant. Okay, and besides that, and that's the statistic we always hear about. Of course, there's a lot of migration between states. California has had a lot of outmigration for a while, and it's only because of immigrants coming from other countries that the population of California has been growing, because a lot of people are leaving for other states, frequently states with lower taxes and maybe better opportunities in terms of what the people perceive. A lot of people moving from here to Arizona, Nevada, no state income tax, Texas, no state income tax, and even as far as Florida, no state income tax and lower average taxes. Remember, California has the highest income tax rates in the United States. So economic factors play a big part, but they do not play the only part. Okay. Now, let's take a look at the comparison and how one makes the decision to move or not. And I am someone who has lived in a lot of different parts of the country. Of course, some of it was out of my control. I moved when I was young from New York to California. Some of it was in the course of my education, moving up to Oregon for grad school, moving to Montana so I could work at a think tank there as I was finishing my studies in grad school. But when I got my degree, I moved originally to upstate New York and then made the determination to move back to the Los Angeles area. So I'm one of those individuals who made the comparison, made the move, and as always, you're comparing benefits versus cost. Okay, and here's how we would illustrate that. I'm going to show you this, bring it in pretty tight, and then we'll explain how we can interpret the relationship. So on the right side here, we've got the cost associated with the move. And this is going to be both the direct cost, out-of-pocket expenses, moving costs, airfare, transport, whatever, and also the psychic cost, leaving behind family, friends, culture, established relationships, leaving a place that you know for a place that you might not know very well. That's the cost side, big C, easy, because not a lot of factors that we're looking at here. On the left side, we're looking at essentially the benefits associated with moving. So we've got our summation sign from 1 equals small t to big T. So this would be when the move would occur, and this is the terminal date. The terminal date might actually not simply be your work life or your natural life. It may be your kids or your grandkids if you're taking a long-term view of the move. But we've got some period of time that we're looking at. And of course, the bigger T is, since we're discounting it back to present value, the smaller the effect 50 or 100 years from now is going to be. In the numerator here, we've got the benefits from the job that you originally have. So that would, from the job that you're going to. Okay, so that would be the new job, B sub J period T. So each and every year, the projected benefits from the job that you are considering getting when you move, minus the benefits from the job that you originally have, BO or B0T. And so we've got the gains here in terms of the benefits, however you want to construe them, from a job in a new place. It could be higher earnings. It could be higher fringe benefits. You probably want to take the differences in the cost of living into account. So this would be in real terms. And then you would discount it back to present value by 1 plus the interest rate R raised to the power of T. And because of the compounding effect of interest, that's why when we are 50 years down the road, 1 plus an interest rate, let's say the interest rate was 5%, 1.05 to the 50th power is going to be a very big number. So whatever gains there are will have less of a present value going forward. Okay, so the benefits for moving, the cost associated with moving, and we've got a lot of different variables here, and we can take a look and see how changes in these variables will either make it more likely or less likely to move. In each of these examples, I'm looking at an increase in the different factor. Of course, we could look at a decrease and we would get the opposite effect. Okay, so let's take a look at the benefits from the job that you would be going to. The higher those become, the more likely you are to move. So if you're looking at, and don't worry about international moving right now, although it's equally relevant to that, but just think about moving to a different part of the country after you graduate and the economy improves a bit from where we are right now. If the opportunities get greater going somewhere else, the more likely you are to go that somewhere else because you're being lured by the economic opportunities there. The discount rate, it always seems to be the case, of course, if the discount rate goes up, the present value of any future gain is going to go down, all else the same. So as the interest rate rises, you're going to be less likely to move because this denominator is going to be bigger, so the whole ratio is going to be smaller. B0 is the job or BO is the job that you already have. The more lucrative that job is, the less likely you are to move. So if your existing employer decides to give you a raise, that's going to increase the chance you're going to stay. Okay? T is the terminal date over the period of time that we're looking at here. The further out that goes in the future, the more likely you are to move because you're capturing more years worth of benefits, right? And this will help explain that you typically don't move to a new job if you're in your 50s or 60s. Kind of obvious. And then finally, if the cost associated with moving could be out-of-pocket expense, it could be the psychic cost. Let's say you've been in a place for a couple of years. I mean, I'll give you my own experience. I lived in upstate New York for 2 years after I finished my PhD, stayed another year at Montana State University, then I take this job with one of the Cal State equivalents in New York. I'm there for 2 years and decided to come back here. I had friendships, but I didn't have a lot of well-developed friendships because I wasn't there that long. Okay. If you were there 20 years and had really close friendships and your kids I wasn't married at the time. If your kids had friendships and things of that nature, then you're going to be less likely to move. So as the cost of moving increases, of course, you're going to be less likely to move. Kind of predictable. Okay. So what do we observe about people who are moving? Well, they tend to move towards good opportunities, not simply away from poor ones, because most people who move when they have a job, not simply move someplace to start looking for a job. They would likely do that before they even undertook a move. Okay? So the unemployment rate doesn't matter in and of itself so much, because unless high unemployment means there aren't a lot of job opportunities, and then people are not going to move. I mean, that kind of makes sense. Another observation which goes against your intuition, particularly with regards to immigration, is the poor are less likely to move, not more likely to move. Why? Because number one, they have lower wealth, so their ability to finance a move is diminished. And secondly, they have a smaller education and skill set. And so the broader your skill set, the more likely there's going to be a national market for what you do. The higher your level of education, of course, that expands the number of job opportunities that are available to you. And so someone who is very poor and they have a job, a service job that doesn't require a lot of training, if you're working as stocking shelves at Walmart, that's not something you're likely to move to another state to do, okay? But if you're a well-trained professional, there may be very good opportunities, particularly in the IT sector, the STEM jobs, science, technology, engineering, and math. What we're going to do on the next video is to take a look at what we observed, get in a little more detail what we observed about the people who in fact do migrate.